Riccardi, 10 till 1, 550 KTSA.
KTSA news time is 10:08. Good morning. It is Friday, January 22nd, 2011. And Fridays mean weekends, and weekends mean Gang of Four. There's no other way into the weekend but through this Gang of Four. You must walk the gauntlet of these highly opinionated, well-informed, I might also add sartorially splendid Gang of Four panelists. We'll meet them in just a moment. We'll find out what's going on with them, and we'll kick around the big stories of the morning and the week. We'll get your votes in on the JR poll at 599-5555. I think we may have found the perfect political candidate for San Antonio. We're going to talk about him, and we're going to ask you about him on the JR poll in just a little while.
He's not perfect if it's not a woman.
Okay. Almost the perfect candidate for San Antonio. That's Cathy Meyer. When we first met her, she had been an FBI agent, specializing in gang...
well, not in the FBI, but I did do a stint, 10 years doing street gang
Arguing
and
with me
research.
Already. Yeah. Just go along with the bio, all right?
Pardon my cedar fever.
You were in the FBI. You were in the FBI, and you were also a gang expert. I think we used to interview you about gang activity in San Antonio. You weren't in a gang.
I tried. They wouldn't let me
Now
in.
you're on the gang.
Yes.
And more recently, she's a middle school English teacher. How's the school year going?
Just waiting to get some money.
Yeah,
it's very
you're in one of those districts that's very worried about everything. How big do you think your classes will be next year?
Well, we're big now, but we're looking at 40
stadium
kids.
seating next year.
Pretty much.
Right.
And I have to say, good morning, Aunt Jeannie, Uncle Bill.
Your fans. Where are they again?
They in Universal City. Okay. Longtime listeners, way back from Bruce Hathaway days.
In the UC. All right, so Cathy Meyer, who's one of our original charter members of Gang of Four, back with us today on KTSA. Elaine Wolff, now the editor of Plaza de Armas, an online political and current events news. You don't call it a newspaper. What do you call it?
We call it a newspaper.
It's
an online newspaper.
An online newspaper.
Yeah, it's an online newspaper.
It has pages.
Yeah, it has pages. It has politics.
Do your fingers
business,
get dirty
culture.
when you first open it up?
We should get that effect going. People would like that. That's good. Yeah, we could make that happen.
But you've recently started this just in the last few weeks. You've started this venture.
It actually started last Wednesday, so it's just about a week old, as a matter of fact. And there's already some really great stories on there. Some good in-depth reporting on sweetheart deals at the city, spending of bond money that maybe some of the citizens don't want spent the way it's going to be spent. Lots of city hall coverage. Lots of coverage of the council races coming up.
What's the website for people to check this out?
It's plazadearmastx.com. So just like the square downtown where City Hall is located, plazadearmastx.com.
Very good. Elaine Wolff with us. And Doug Vair, longtime voice of and director of publicity at Retama Park. Doug, good morning to you.
Great to see you, Jack.
You got some whiskers going on there? Is this
do.
your off-season look?
I do. Well, I'm actually growing my beard because we're doing some historical reenactment stuff with the Sons of Confederate Veterans. What we do every year coming up on February the 12th, it's the 150th, the sesquicentennial reenactment of Twig's surrender when Ben McCullough, a very famous San Antonian, and also we're commemorating a very famous Hispanic that a lot of folks don't know about, Jose Garza, whose family was the first folks to print coins, to actually mint a coin in Texas. He was one of the militia leaders that took over the Alamo in February of 1861 when Texas was seceding from the Union so that they could get all of the munitions and the supplies for the Confederate Army. It's a big deal. There's going to be thousands of us down there on February the 12th. So I'm growing the whiskers, and they'll be gone in about a month.
Now, I've been to these reenactments, Civil War, Revolutionary War, so are you one of these guys who you're so in the character that if I came up to you and said, "Hey, Doug," you would turn and say, "I don't know who you are," civilian?
No, we don't wear wool underwear and
you don't take it that far.
No, but we do have.
Call him Colonel.
We do have period correct clothing. And it's really one of the this is one of those
slaves?
No. Okay. This is one of those little known parts of San Antonio history. It's San Antonio history, it's Texas history, it's military history. And actually there were no shots fired because the folks from the Union side and the militiamen and the Texas Rangers were all friends, some of them brothers. They kind of just stood around and yelled at each other. And if there had been shots fired, San Antonio would have been the beginning of the war between the states.
Interesting.
But it's a little known piece of Texas history that is so interesting.
How did you get involved in that?
Well, my great-grandfather was a member of the 2nd Alabama Infantry. And my great-great-grandfather, 5 times removed, was a captain in the Army of the Republic of Texas under Sam Houston. So just in the last 4 or 5 years, I started to learn all these things, and it just became, you know, I love history. So it just became one of these things that I just kind of got into. And it's, if you like history, if you think that history, if you look at history and go back and look at it as an indicator of where we've been and where we're going, it really helps you, I think.
Very good. See, you should get him in your classroom.
Well, he's recruiting kids to come watch, which I think is terrific.
Yeah.
And this is different from the Alamo 175th.
Yeah, this is the sesquicentennial of the South. It is also the 150th anniversary of this event. And actually, Robert E. Lee was a colonel at Mason, at Fort Mason, heard about all this commotion going on in San Antonio, rode horseback day and night to get here. It was all over when he got here. They took his arms from him. He went back to Virginia, was offered the generalship of the Union Army, refused it, and then became one of the greatest generals in American history as the leader of the Army of Northern Virginia.
Okay, so, not to hijack Jack's show, but
welcome to the History Channel, everyone.
Yeah.
But Robert E. Lee laid the cornerstone for St. Mark's Episcopal Church.
He was an
when
original.
did that happen? Where was that in that timeline of events?
Well, it was before then, because in 1861 is when he spirited himself out of here back to Virginia. But that, you know, he was here from about 1845 till about 1860.
I know,
he was in Texas for many years. Yeah. So it's wonderful. I love it. It's one of those things that you get to do that just it gives you an attachment to your past, and that's what it's all about.
God, I feel like such a loser. I just read books about this stuff.
Should we say terrible. The Texas Pledge of Allegiance? We do every morning.
Whatever you'd like to do, Kathy. It's your show. I'm just.
But anyway, thanks for asking, Joe.
Yeah, a great radio voice.
Whatever you'd like to do, Kathy. Go right ahead.
All right, back to the show, Jack.
Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, I hardly know where to go from there. I don't know where.
But thank you for that. That's it's just one of the things that I love doing. Also, politics now. I mean, what's going on?
You are you're very fired up about that stuff. But I didn't know this whole battle reenactment aspect of you. You're multifaceted, Doug. What can I tell you? He's a complicated man. 10:15 on KTSA. All right. Well, look, I don't know if I am just easily impressed or what, but one of the stories this week that I literally cannot get over is this incredibly fast recovery that Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords is making. I mean, with all of the debate over what caused it or didn't cause it, I think we're missing, and Elaine, I turn to you as the journalist in the room, I think we're missing a really big story here. This is an incredibly fast recovery by what must be a very, very strong woman getting blue-chip, state-of-the-art health care, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I whenever I read a little bit about it, I always want to know more about what's going on. And I think in part they don't know for sure yet, right? The brain is a mysterious place. We know that you can have trauma to the brain and still recover and lead very much a normal life, very much like you did before. We don't know yet exactly how she's going to be when she finishes recovery. But yeah, it's been remarkable so far.
That she went outside yesterday, that she's able to walk around the room. She's able to use an iPod. I can't use an iPod.
I can't either.
You know, I mean, to me, we've spent so much time having what has turned out to be a fruitless discussion over the tone. But here is this woman who most people had never heard of outside of Arizona or politics, making, I think, a really incredible recovery, and it says a lot about her. By the way, there was a survey, Fox did a survey, 8 out of 10 people in the survey believe that she has been helped by prayer. What do you think about that, Doug?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question in my mind. Prayer is a wonderful thing, especially when 2 or 3 are gathered together, and I think it's it's such a terrible tragedy, but hopefully it's something that can galvanize the public to come together. I pray for her every day, and I pray that she's able to make a recovery where she's able to actually come back to work someday, because she really is a terrific person
not only her,
and a
but
terrific
the other
legislator
as well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, she's certainly the core of what all this was about. But what is it? 5 other victims now that are still recovering, and I get to thinking about them. These are just people on a Saturday morning that went to the grocery store and possibly to hear her speak, and their whole lives have changed. When you talk about health care and the medical bills they're going to face, I think they're all on the hook for their own recovery and rehabilitation, and their lives have been totally disrupted, and so they certainly should be included in a lot of this praise and prayer that's going on.
Now, I'm interested in this. We have not seen a big push. I mean, there are a few people saying it, and there are people who sort of always say it, but we haven't seen a big turn to gun control. We haven't seen President Obama, the leader of his party. We haven't seen a lot of talk about, in fact, in this same survey, the vast majority of people don't think that tougher gun laws should come out of this tragedy. Are you surprised, Cathy, that where that has usually been the tone of the debate or the way we turn after something like this, that's not happening this time?
Well, I look back at when James Brady was shot, and basically nothing's changed since then. And when you come from careers where I've been, gun control is only for the people that are following the law. The people that need to get weapons will get them no matter what. And it's almost a fruitless fight to try to go in and spin your wheels with that.
What about the majority of people in this survey, Elaine, do say that we need to look at mental health. We need to be able to do something preemptive about people that give off disturbing, as this guy gave off a catalog of disturbing signs. And what's interesting about that is, in a way, we're talking about going back in time, because 30 and 40 years ago, people were preemptively institutionalized. We, quote-unquote, reformed that when we found out a lot of them were being warehoused or abused or not getting good care. But now people, in essence, seem to be saying, maybe we went too far with that reform. Maybe we've made it too hard to force somebody into treatment.
Well, we also had things, we also had Reagan in California famously closed down some of the institutions, I think, and put people out on the street who maybe still needed to have some sort of institutional support. I think part of the reason that you haven't seen as much discussion about gun laws is because there has been a very much a needed discussion about the mental health laws and just what can you do when you start to see signs of trouble like this. And it is a tricky question because there is autonomy. He was an adult. You can't just, we don't want to be in a situation where you just grab somebody, you think there's troubling signs, and like you said, you warehouse them or take away their rights. But that kind of treatment, that kind of intervention that is thoughtful is expensive. So I think that takes us back to the healthcare discussion again. What are the resources? Can people afford them? Can people access them in their communities?
And then what I'd like to ask Elaine as the journalist, I mean, this guy's picture is on every time you come onto the internet. I mean, his picture is right there, and it's disturbing to me to look at. But the people that are categorizing him as a hero now are looking at this guy that has 24-hour coverage. And my concern is that more people like him will be out and about and trying things like this. Is there any responsibility that the internet has in not glamorizing the situation?
How do you feel he's being glamorized? I mean, that because the
I don't think he needs to be acknowledged near as much as he's been.
Well, I don't see how you don't have a discussion about him. I mean, and I think it's a very important discussion that we have about him. I don't think you can say that just by talking about him, by putting him out there, that automatically glamorizes him. I don't know how you address what happened without specifically talking about that individual, because ultimately it's an individual who took an action, and there's a range of factors that went into that. The gun he was able to get a hold of, how he was able to get a hold of it, but also what was going on with him personally.
There's one answer that just jumps out at me every time that this comes up, but very few people talk about. More guns, less crime. If there had been people there that had concealed carry permits, or people there, responsible people who were armed, they could have at least saved some of the people who would have been shot. To me, that's as plain as the nose on your face, but very few people are even talking about that.
But Arizona, there could have been people there who had guns, but didn't. I mean, I don't think that
but no one has come forward
in that particular situation.
Well, sure, someone that had a concealed carry permit, or someone who was legally armed.
I think what Elaine is saying is the laws in Arizona allow that.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the law. I'm saying if there had been people there who were armed, who would have been able to protect the innocent, who would have been able to take
so you're
this
saying
guy.
People should take more responsibility for.
Yes, arm yourself legally. I mean, this is really the only way to stop it. You can't stop it by banning guns.
Are you saying that everyone should walk around with a gun?
No, what I'm saying is that people that choose to do it should train themselves and arm themselves and protect themselves and their family, because that is the only way that you're going to be able to guarantee yourself to be able to stop something like that. Otherwise, you're just an innocent victim, you're just a target, you're a sitting duck.